The Google Pixel, the OG, the genesis of a legendary phone series. The device that I've made countless videos on and one of the most important smartphones of the past half decade. That and more coming up in this video of the original Pixel. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas and this is my 2021 review of the Google Pixel. The Google Pixel was the company's original entry into its famous Pixel series, launched way back in 2016. I personally went into a physical store and bought one, and that's the first and only time that I've done that for any smartphone. The hype behind this thing in 2016 was insane, but I saw a lot of reviewers and outlets calling its hardware sort of undesirable, and I don't think that's the case at all. 18-watt fast charging, the fastest we'd ever seen at that time, a 1080p or 1440p OLED, which was a pretty standard for a flagship, a metal and glass design, and a pretty decent camera sensor by 2016 standards, a headphone port, a rear fingerprint scanner, and the fastest Snapdragon processor on the market, with a very standard 4GB of RAM. I'm sorry, but for a 2016 phone, that was really good hardware. That was not bad hardware whatsoever. How is it in 2021? Well, in the UK you can get one of these with the base model 32GB for £100, give or take 20 depending on the condition and marketplace. You could also get a 128GB model for around another £30 here in the UK, and this specific model, being the 32GB, is provided by my good friend Noah Herman, so thank you for getting this phone to me, my man. The Pixel's design has aged pretty poorly. It has to be said. I mean, the front bezels are huge by today's standards, and the rest of the design is a bit Marmite. The glass window at the top was always a bit hit or miss in terms of looks, and the Pixel was fairly thick at the top, which made it stand out as particularly underwhelming design-wise. I personally don't mind the design, I actually quite like it, but then I think the Pixel 2 XL was one of the best, if not the best looking smartphone ever made, especially in that panda colorway, and so maybe I'm a little bit biased towards the Pixel series. There are a few good points to the physical hardware though. IP53 water and dust resistance, a physical capacitive fingerprint reader, a headphone port, and a completely flush camera on the back. No camera bump. I happen to really like the size of this standard variant. I reckon its physical size and edge-to-edge screen would be really good. Actually, no, that sounds like a recipe for a Pixel 5, so maybe I have to try one of those out. The 5-inch 1080p OLED is quite different of a screen to what you find in a modern 2021 smartphone. For starters, it's a 16:9 form factor, meaning that standard YouTube and TV will fit to the screen without any cropping. It's also a 1080p OLED panel, meaning that colours and contrast are very strong, as is the sharpness at this screen size. However, it being 60Hz means that it's not as responsive or as quick as a more modern 90 or 120Hz display. I don't mind 60Hz displays. Actually, if I do get a smartphone with a higher refresh rate display, I tend to turn it down to 60Hz for better battery life, as one, I'm not competitively gaming on my smartphone, so I really don't notice a high refresh rate, and two, that added battery life tends to work out in my favour because I forget to charge my phone quite a lot. You're probably glad that this is a 60Hz panel because the device's 2770 mAh battery is, simply put, too small. If you're using the Pixel like the one we have here, which is used with a used battery, you are not going to be able to get through a full day despite any kind of changes in usage. Whether you turn the brightness down or whatever, it's just not going to be possible unless it's been really well kept. This device is one of the perfect examples of why fast charging is bad in long term. The battery cells have been degraded quicker, and overall, unless you replace the battery with a new one, you're not going to get good battery life, unfortunately. Now, I haven't changed the battery in my unit, so I can't really vouch for this. However, I do feel like the difference from a degraded to a new battery is going to be quite substantial, regardless of the phone it goes in. The fast charging, 18 watts, isn't really that quick these days. I mean, you've got Realme, sort of BBK and Xiaomi smartphones that are producing much better speeds. However, you know, we've kind of progressed in the last 5 years, so we've got to give Google some props here because 18 watts was very fast 5 years ago. It's not very fast these days, and when I say not very fast, it's going to charge the phone in multiple hours versus sort of half an hour is the standard these days. However, it must be said this is the same charging tech that's found, or relatively similar charging tech that's found in the Pixel 5, which is around the same speed. So you're not really missing out much by going with this over a Pixel 5 in that particular point. Performance is, well, it's not ideal. The Snapdragon 821 and 4GB of RAM in 2021 is pretty low end. Don't get me wrong, the phone is still usable if you want to use it for, say, browsing through social media, but I mean, gaming is kind of a bit of a joke on this thing unless you've got it plugged in constantly, and even then performance isn't great. And of course, you're not going to feel super high frames because it's only got a 60Hz panel anyway. I'm not sure for whom this is a surprise, but the Pixel 1 is just not a performance-oriented phone in 2021, and that's to be expected. Usable, but not great. The software is, by all accounts, pretty decent to be honest. The Pixel started off life with Android 7.1 and received its final version upgrade in 2019, which was Android 10. That's a pretty strong lifespan to be fair, but it is worth noting it's not going to get any more platform upgrades. Android 10 does look and feel very nice. It's definitely not transformative because going between Android versions has never really felt like a huge jump, but it still looks and feels pretty good to use. And if you're happy with an outdated version of Android, then by all means go for it. Which of course naturally brings us to the cameras. I mean, come on, when we're talking about software, we kind of have to talk about Google's cameras, right? So I made a video on the Pixel's cameras, like individually on my channel, because I felt it was worth talking about. But long story short, the original Pixel's camera is incredibly impressive given its age and hardware. I mean, this is a tiny sensor on the back with no optical stabilization and all packed behind a flush rear glass panel. I mean, it really does not look impressive. The colours are relatively muted and there's quite a lot of contrast, though this is a typical Pixel trait throughout the series. Images lack dynamic range compared to a 2021 camera sample, but it's really not that bad, and only the most eagle-eyed people will notice this in their images. When you put it in the context of a £100 5-year-old smartphone, it's impressive to say the least. Of course, there's a distinct lack of versatility and flexibility, as there's only one camera sensor on the back, and it's a small sensor anyway. For those who just want to point and click, this thing is ideal, but for those who want a little bit more in their camera app, this is just not for you. So then, the Pixel 1 is still a really important device. It's one that will go down in the history books for forcing the importance of software on the smartphone market. This device proves that software will always be more important than hardware when it comes to a smartphone. Is it usable in 2021? Absolutely. But would I recommend it? Absolutely not. If you want a cheap Pixel, then please do check out the Pixel 4a. I know that's probably going to be the top of your list and everyone's going to be spouting, oh, 4a is amazing, 4a is amazing. It might not be quite as good as what people are making it out to be, but it is a fantastic cheap Pixel with up-to-date hardware, up-to-date software, and it's not going to be the most powerful and it's not going to take the best photos, but for around £350 you can't really go wrong with it. In terms of a flagship older Pixel, I recommend no earlier than a Pixel 3, just because anywhere before then you're kind of getting into outdated hardware and software. The 4a will last you longer in terms of software updates at least. This might be the last video I ever do on the Pixel 1, so I wanted to make it a banger. Hopefully it's been alright. I've tried to shoot this slightly differently. Let me know in the comments what you think. And I'm going to leave today's video here. Thank you to Noah Herman for providing this phone. Link to his channel will be in the video description. Also check out all my other social media links while you're there. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one. I've been Ryan Thomas and I'll catch you later. Peace.